Okay. So we'll start with our prayers, and I know a lot of us know these prayers already, but I'll chant and you can repeat after me. So I know a lot of you are in your house right now, and so that's extra opportunity to chant as loud as you possibly can. My teacher used to joke that you can't speak Sanskrit quietly. You have to speak loudly when you're speaking Sanskritam, right? It's a very Indian thing to speak very loudly. So even when you're chanting, wake up whoever's upstairs with their chanting, okay? So you can repeat after me. So I'll say the shloka or part of the shloka, and then you can repeat 2 times. Okay, so 2 times. Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum. Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum. Twice. Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum. Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam. Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam. Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam. Prasannavadanam dhyayet sarvabhignopashantaye. Prasannavadanam dhyayet sarvabhignopashantaye. One more time. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini. One more time. So just one note, when you're saying Saraswati, a lot of people, it's very common that will say Saraswati, we'll make that E, long E. Okay, but notice it's short E. It's Saraswati Namastubhyam instead of, the wrong way of saying is Saraswati Namastubhyam. So you got to make the E short. Otherwise, the whole meaning of the word changes. Okay, so Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini. And then we'll do the second line. Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. You can repeat twice. Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. One more time. Okay, so the next 3 shlokas are a little bit less common. So again, you can repeat after me twice. Yenakshara samamnayam. Yenakshara samamnayam. One more time. Yenakshara samamnayam. Adhigamya maheshwarat. Adhigamya maheshwarat. Adhigamya maheshwarat. Kritsnam vyakaranam proktam. Kritsnam vyakaranam proktam. One more time. Kritsnam vyakaranam proktam. Tasmai Paninaye Namaha. Tasmai Paninaye Namaha. Tasmai Paninaye Namaha. Just one note with this one, it's Kritsnam. Kritsnam. Okay, so not Krishnam. Well, I've heard a lot of people say Krishnam, not Krishna. There's no Krishna here. Kritsnam. Okay, Kritsnam. Vakyakaram vararuchim. Vakyakaram vararuchim. One more time. Vakyakaram vararuchim. Bhashyakaram patanjalim. Bhashyakaram Patanjalim, Bhashyakaram Patanjalim. So really use your Mahaprana with the bha. Okay. Paninim Sutrakarancha, Paninim Sutrakarancha, Paninim Sutrakarancha, Pranatosmi Munitrayam, Pranatosmi Munitrayam, Pranatosmi Munitrayam. Next shloka. Vagartha viva samprikto, Vagartha viva samprikto, Vagartha viva samprikto, Vagartha pratipattaye, Vagartha pratipattaye. One more time. Vagartha pratipattaye. Jagatah pitaro vande, Jagatah pitaro vande, Jagatah pitaro vande, Parvati parameshwarau, Parvati parameshwarau, Parvati parameshwarau. Together. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So namaste again to everyone. Welcome to class. It's really nice to see. I think there's 22 people on right now. I think that's wonderful that we're all want to study Sanskritam in an in-depth manner. So our prayers, we started off with the invocation to Lord Ganesha, so asking for our blessings. Goddess Saraswati to brighten our buddhi, and may we have success in our studies. We pray to all the to Panini Muni, who has codified the grammar system that we're using. We pray to 3 Sanskrit Munis for their blessings. And we pray to Jagatah Pitaro, the parents of the world, Parvati and Parameshwara. So Lord, Goddess Parvati and Lord Shiva. So with that, we also seek, right, the blessings of our teachers, of our parampara. So specifically for me, right, seeking the grace of Puja Swami Dayananda Ji, seeking the grace of Medha Michikaji and Swami Sadatmananda, who's my guru in India. And with those blessings, we can study successfully, right? We've talked about karma, a lot of Tattva Bodha. And for Sanskrit grammar, I think we need a lot of blessings, especially. I think reason for that, I think one is to show up is a big deal. Show up every week and to take it seriously. The second is having the buddhi to be able to understand and grasp the concepts. And then the third is making sure that I have the right vision so that I'll even follow up and do the homework as well. Right? So we ask for the blessings in that way. Right? So the book we're using is Enjoyable Sanskrit Grammar Series. So a lot of you have been in the class for this 1 year, but we're starting from the beginning again. So the reasons for starting at the beginning again are twofold. One is that Sanskritam we learn through repetition. So a lot of these concepts we may have understood, but they're not solid. Right? They're a little bit shaky. And so I noticed that as we were moving on, that there was a shaky foundation. And so we are building on a shaky foundation. And so I was talking about samanadhikaranam, all of these things, and then, but some of the basic ideas weren't there. But that's totally normal. That's completely normal. Even in the Vedanta course, we were studying almost either from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours of Sanskritam every day. And then we would have homework on top of that every day. Still, we went through this volume 1 book, I think 3 or 4 times. I mean, we did a lot more textbooks. Don't think we only did this book, but we did this a few times throughout the course. Just a note about technology. So we're using the Zoom platform, right? So this is Zoom. If you're on, then you figured out how to get on. So that's a big blessing already. Just one note is that you could raise your hand at any time, and you can do that through clicking Manage Participants, and then you can click Raise Hand. So why doesn't everyone try that, just so we can know that everyone knows how to do that? So if you can click Manage Participants, Raise Hand. If you're on an iPad or a device, you hit Manage Participants, More, and then Raise Hand. Okay, so I see almost everyone has raised their hands, so we figured out how to do that. Okay, now I'm gonna lower all your hands. Now, the next thing is also there's a chat box. So at the bottom, you can hit chat, and in the chat box, you can either write a message to everyone, like people have been doing, telling you what city you're from, or you could send me a private message. So in the chat, so if you open your chat box, you can click to, and you can write to everyone, or you can click to, and then you can select my name specifically. So Shivam Gosai, right? And then you can send me a private message. Now this is helpful because sometimes I don't see your hand raised at times, or I'll ask you to write the question in the chat box itself. Okay, so just make sure that you're using the chat box and you know how to use the chat box. A few other technology things is that the Zoom code will stay the same, so this link won't change. So you can keep this in your bookmarks, or you can save this Zoom code. And I'm also recording the classes. A lot of people were asking if I'm going to record the classes, and the answer is yes. And the reasons are because one is that Sanskritam, like I said, requires repetition. So sometimes you'll want to review what is being taught at a later time. And the second reason is also that some people, life happens, and so you might not be able to attend the class, and you might want to catch up. And so having the classes on the Google Drive will help you catch up as well. With that said, I obviously would request that everyone attend live when possible, because it makes a difference in our learning, right? As live as we can make this, then it'll become live in our mind as well. So I think it's really nice that we have this online platform. And I think it's nice that we have this online platform because we get to learn not ancient grammar, it's still relevant, but we get to learn this important grammar in the comfort of our homes. And we get to learn Vedanta from the comfort of our home. So I get to enter into your wonderful homes and teach, which is a big blessing for me and a blessing for all of us, right? But one of the cons with this online platform is that when we turn on the computer, we also tend to turn on a casual kind of mindset. A lot of times we use our computers for surfing the internet or, reading the news, all of these things. And so we're become a little bit casual. So my request is that even though we're using an online platform, we still stay alert and sincere. So it's not that just because I'm home, I can also do my laundry and fold my laundry while attending Sanskritam class. Or, I can, I don't even know, you can be cooking your sabji for the evening. That's not, that's not the tradition of we want to show respect to our Shastra. If we show respect to the Shastra will respect us, right? If we give a sincere attitude, then we'll feel the blessings of the Shastra, of our scriptures. So with that said, we can enter into our text. And again, so if you have volume 1, now in the volume 1 basics, in the beginning of the book, you'll see a preface. So it says I on the bottom of the page. Before even the numbers start, it says I. And in there's a few notes that I kind of want to point out. You don't necessarily need to open the book right now. You can follow on screen. So just one note is that there's something called Anubandha Chatushtaya. So before we enter into any text, whether it's a Vedanta or a Sanskritam text, whatever the Shastra is, we usually see something called Anubandha Chatushtayam. Chatushtayam means, right, fourfold. Anubandha means introductory points. Now, these introductory points are there so that we can see whether we want to enter into the text and enter into this class, whether it's appropriate for us. So, it's like, it's telling us what we're kind of getting into. I don't want any surprises, or really Vedanta or the Parampara doesn't want to surprise anyone. They want people to come and know what they're getting into. And I mean that in the most calm way possible. You're not getting into anything scary. So Adhikari. So Adhikari is who is the book meant for, and who is this class meant for? This class and book is meant for those who are interested in studying Sanskrit, but not just for Sanskritam purpose, right? We're studying Sanskrit to understand Sanskrit employed by traditional teachers in unfolding the vision of Vedanta, okay? So this is an important part of keeping this in mind, that this is not a learning how to speak. This is not spoken Sanskritam. This is learning Sanskritam for unfolding Vedanta, okay? Because our vision is on freedom, moksha. And to have freedom, we need Shastra Pramana. We need the means of unfolding that, of the vision. And to see the vision, our texts happen to be written in Sanskritam. And so we're studying Sanskritam to enter our Shastra. We're entering our Shastra because it's a Pramana. And we want to follow this Pramana because I want freedom. I want happiness here and at all times. Okay, Vishaya, what is the subject matter? The subject matter is, it's an introduction to classical Sanskritam grammar, the source book of which is written by Sage Panini. So the sutras, Sage Panini, this book is in line with Panini Sutras. So if you study this, you'll be set for also studying later Sanskritam grammar. Now, a lot of people have asked me why I choose this book over other books, because a lot of you may have heard of books such as Antoine. A lot of people study Antoine in the beginning, and that's a beautiful book as well. And that's a lot of people have used that book. But this book specifically is useful for a number of reasons. I've selected a few that I thought were relevant. One is that there's clear terminology. I think Medha Michikaji, the author of this textbook, right, clearly lays out the definition of terms. And that's really important so that we can have a strong foundation. The second thing is that the vocabulary used in the textbook are vocabulary from Vedanta. And why that's important is because if you see almost any other Sanskritam book, you'll see really, really random vocabulary. So you'll talk, the first sentence is usually about a goat. So the goat goes from this village to that. And so, but we don't, for Vedanta students, we don't need to learn the word goat. That's not relevant. Or we don't need to learn what a plate is, or a glass, or a spoon. These are often the first lessons you'll learn in Sanskritam classes. And I've gone through this myself, but we want to be purposeful, right? Because we have limited time, limited mental space. And so we're going to be selective. This next thing is that it's visually clear. So Medha Michikaji, before she became this scholar, she was a computer engineer, right? And so she thinks visually, and a lot of us in this class also think very visually. And so the book is set up in a very visually clear presentation, which I think is important for effective learning. And so you can tell, I also draw things, and you'll see me using technology a lot to kind of enhance that visual clarity. By the way, if you have any questions at any point, type in the chat or raise your hand and I'll call on you. Now, the third point in Anubandha Chatushtaya is what is the expected result, prayojanam. So, right? Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of this? Or what is the result that I'm going to get out of this, right? What is the palashruti? What is the result for me to do this? And so the result is that at the end of this class, essentially, number one is probably the most, is a lot of you have seen, if you were in the Sanskritam class before this, is that we will learn a clear and systematic method of parsing sentences. So breaking apart sentences, and we'll be able to analyze simple verses and prose within a few months. So if you remember in our last class, we were doing exercises and we were breaking down verses and prose from Vedanta. So that's the result of this class. Now I'm talking quite fast, and I'm doing that purposefully because I want to enter into the book in this first class itself. But this is all there in the textbook. So if you want to read thoroughly about what is the Anubandha Chatushtaya, then feel free to do that also. Or email me if you have any questions with this. I know a lot of you have been in this class before, and so I'm going a little bit faster with this beginning part. The last is sambandha. So what is the relationship between the study of this book or study of this class and the results? And the relationship is that if you follow this book and this class, then you'll get the results that we just talked about. Okay. Now, this is our last point here. Successful study of Sanskrit requires cognitive capacity, consistent effort, and the grace of Ishvara. Personal growth and emotional maturity are necessary in order to have the mind that is available for the study of Vedanta and Sanskrit. And prayers should be continued to earn that grace. Therefore, we will do our prayers every class, and I encourage you to continue with our prayers to earn the grace. With that said, I want to point out that the name of this textbook is called Enjoyable Sanskrit. So don't come into class feeling miserable. You have to come into class with a smile on your face, with the attitude that this is going to be enjoyable. Because what I have noticed and what I've seen is that the biggest block in learning is the psychological aspect, right? A lot of you may have had exposure to Sanskritam, maybe in India or maybe in some class in college or in high school. And people always tell me that Sanskritam is really hard, that it's so complex. How can you be so interested in it? And I'll tell you that if you think it's hard and miserable, then it will be hard and miserable. But there's a way that it could be enjoyable. So don't take yourselves too seriously. Enjoy this process and you'll gain more out of it. I went into the course knowing I hardly even knew the alphabets. I knew some Gujarati writing, but I didn't even know the Devanagari per se. Medha Michikaji is Japanese. She definitely didn't know the writing. But, right, it is possible to learn this. It just takes some grace and a little bit of effort. Okay. So we will enter actually into the first topic. So it's actually topic 2 in your textbook. So if you open up your workbook, so this is not the book 1, this is the book 1 workbook. Can someone tell me in the chat what page this is on? Yeah, so this is page 4 of your workbook. And you can follow along with me and you can write in the spaces, okay? So on page 4 of the workbook, this is also 5 in the textbook if you only have the textbook, but both are linked in the chat also, okay? So the first thing is that we want to talk about the building blocks of the Sanskrit language. So what we're talking about is the foundation for the whole language. We must have this strong so that we can build on top of this structure. So here is the foundation that we're laying. The most fundamental aspect of the language is a sentence. Right? A sentence, also called vakyam. Vakyam. A vakyam is a unit of expression to communicate an idea. A sentence or a vakyam is a unit of expression to communicate an idea. Okay, so the whole language is built upon a sentence, sentences. Okay, so repeat after me. Vakyam. Vakyam. So the vakyam is our base of the entire language. Okay, so a vakyam consists of it consists of items. It consists of a word or words, right? So plural or singular. So a word in Sanskritam is called padam. And words, the plural is called padani. So padam and padani. Okay, so repeat after me. Padam. Padam. So, okay, so now we're already building, right? Our whole language is built upon sentences. Now a sentence or a vakyam consists of a word or multiple words. Padam or padani. Right, so you can see this visual. You can make it in the chart. Vakyam is made up of padam, padam, padam. And multiple padam are called padani. So you can write that underneath, padani, right? Words. So notice how I'm building vocabulary. This is essential vocabulary. Soon I'm going to drop the English translation and we'll just use the Sanskrit terms. So if I want to make a sentence, I need word or words, right? And so the words are padani. So I have a sentence, and that sentence is, padam or padani, made up of padam or padani, okay? We're zooming in when we don't want to zoom in. I don't know how that's happening. Okay, all right. So now we'll keep going. Let me know if you have any questions. Now notice that we stopped with padam. Now, the thing about this language is that there's only two types of padani. Okay, so the whole language is built on two types of padani, verbs and nouns. Okay, so if you know these two things, you know the entire language. A verb and a noun, right? So this is it. This is all you need to know. Verb and a noun, right? Verb, we call, okay, let me make that more clear. I'm gonna write it up here, okay, just so I have more space. Tingantam padam. Okay, and in transliteration, if I write that, Tingantam padam. Okay, so that's a verb. So repeat after me. Tingantam padam. Tingantam padam. So I don't know why I have a tone, but I feel like if you chant things in a tone, it helps you remember it better. So just adding a little bit of flavor, a little bit of masala to the chanting. Okay, so right, so we have, right? Okay, let's review. We have vakyam. Our vakyam is made up of padani, and there's two types of padam. One is tingantam padam, and the second type of padam is a noun, what we call subantam padam. Now notice my handwriting isn't great. So that's why if you have your book one, you can use that to see the spelling as well, right? It's all there. It's not, I'm not writing anything different, but we're going through it. Subantam padam. So taking these notes will help, right? So there's two types of words. One is a tingantam padam, which is a verb, and the second is subantam padam, a noun. So I have a vakyam. A vakyam is made up of what? Padani. And there's two types of padani, a tingantam padam and a subantam padam. Okay, so we have to get this systematic steps, right? We're building this foundation. We're adding the concrete to our cinder blocks. Okay, last thing before we end. Actually, we'll stop here and we'll pick up from this in our next class, okay? That we're gonna break down each of these two types of words. We'll take a 5-minute break and we'll start at 8:10 with our Sadhana Panchakam class. In the future, I may add 5 minutes to grammar class. So I may go until 8:10 and we'll start Sadhana Panchakam 8:15. So we'll kind of decide that as we go along. But I feel like we may need more time with our class. Okay? Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll start at 8:10. So have a glass of water. If you have any questions in the meantime, I'll still be here so you can write in the chat.